We turn to one of our good friends involved in all the important issues in the United States Congress. From up in the Philadelphia area in Pennsylvania, Congressman Joe Sestak. Hey, Congressman, welcome back.
Good to be back, Bill, and thanks.
Why shouldn't Congress stay here in August and get the job done on health care?
Well, it should. I mean, we have been doing nothing on health care for at least 8 years.
Yeah, right.
The last great attempt by President Clinton resulted in no action since then, and we should stay here during August. And I think my concern is that misinformation will grow louder and louder during the recess. And as anyone gets closer to election, unfortunately, politicians tend to lose political courage. And the argument, which I thought the president began bringing out even more rightly recently, has been, look, everybody, this is really an economic issue for your pocketbook. If you have health care today, you're going to stay in it. Not only that, we're going to have you pay no copays, none,
right,
for preventive care. And you know what? If your daughter has a brain tumor, when she gets to 18, don't worry. She's going to be covered because we removed any insurance company being able to refuse care for pre-existing conditions. This is a real win-win for the pocketbook as well as the well-being of people.
You know, Congressman, you're absolutely right. And the president was very clear in that. I thought Wednesday evening, I was down there at the news conference. He said, if you've got coverage, here's what it's going to do for you. If you don't have health insurance right now, here's what it's going to do for you. And he said, you know, we need these deadlines so we can get things done. And the very next day, you know, Majority Leader Reid pulls the rug out from under him, basically, and says, hey, we're going to go home for August.
It isn't right for America. We are in the middle of a savage recession. We've had 401s and IRAs devastated. Foreclosures are still increasing. 2.5 million Americans unemployed, and we can't stay to cover health care for everybody. I went to 67 counties, Bill, in Pennsylvania in 3 weeks, and I will tell you that after 4 or 5 minutes maybe on jobs and issues, the next hour was all about health care. Explain what you're trying to do. Is it the right thing? Mm-hmm. We're hurting. I will also tell you this. Businesses. Small businesses pay on average 18% more for their health care plans today than do big businesses because they can't pull risk. And what we now permit small businesses to do is to say you and your individuals can go into this new exchange and pick which private health care plan you want or the public option and pull your risk so your premiums will go down. This is good for business, and it's good for individuals.
Yeah, and good for American families. So you said this a little earlier, and I agree. You know that while Congress is out of town, right, the right-wing talk radio shows, right, and the Republicans, they're not going to stop hammering on this. They're going to continue to spread the lies, continue to spread the misinformation. Do you think it could will make it more difficult to get a bill passed at all this year?
I think it will make it a little more difficult. Doesn't mean we're not going to, because at times like this, leaders really step forward, and with the courage of their conviction, they pivot and they say, wait a moment, look at the facts. And President Obama and every congressperson who believes in this better be out on the hustings talking about it every day, because, look, when someone says the word tax, my gosh, in Pennsylvania, we're the third oldest state in the union. They hear tax, and so many are on fixed income. They go, what? And then you say, no, wait a moment. You're in Medicare? Don't worry. You're now going to have no copays for preventive care. And that's the beaten back we've got to do.
And I hope people do it. Congressman Joe Sestak on the Bill Press Show here this Friday morning with us. Congressman, a little earlier in the week, we had a guest on, Governor Ed Rendell from Pennsylvania, and we got into talking about Pennsylvania politics, curiously enough, and I asked him the question. He indicated he was certainly supporting Arlen Specter would be in the Democratic primary next year. And I asked him the question as to whether or not you ought to drop your plans of perhaps challenging Senator Specter. I'd like you to play the governor's response and then get your reaction. Here's Ed Rendell.
If Joe would ask my advice, I'd say, Joe, you're needed in the House. It's a difficult seat for the Democrats to hold without Joe Sestak running again. We could lose the seat in the House. His chances of unseating Arlen Specter against the wishes of an extremely popular president, at least with Democratic voters, a vice president who has tremendous impact in the southeastern portion of the state, the governor, Senator Casey, all those elected officials, the mayor of Philadelphia, Mike Nutter, the county executive of Allegheny County, Dan Honorato, probably our next governor, to battle those forces when you're not even, Joe Sestak doesn't even have good name recognition in neighboring Philadelphia. Arlen Specter has been a household word for 30 years. I think it's a tremendous uphill fight, and I think it will cost Joe his seat in the House, and maybe cost the Democratic Party what would be a safe seat if Joe remained.
There's the governor's advice to you, Congressman. Do you take his advice?
If you only had politicians or leaders in any type of profession do things when the odds favored them, we certainly today would not have a first-term senator who's president of the United States, or a first-time ever mayor from Philadelphia named Ed Rendell, who took on the establishment, became the first governor of all of Pennsylvania ever from the city of Philadelphia. No, what we cannot afford in the Democratic Party is to only say the establishment will not give an anointment to those in safe seats to continue to move up, because then where comes the audacity? Democrats are not in power today because of political calculation. They're there because they fought with audacity to get in there, with strong and new challengers who actually could get into a race like I did, where the district was 55% Republican, 35% Democrat, and then take it on and win it. Boy, that's the kind of warrior that we want to go into the Senate, I believe, particularly where the option is a person, Arlen Specter, who voted with President Bush every time with his economic policies and every time for the tax cuts for the rich that savaged us in this recession. To ever even begin to think that our Democratic Party would not hold him accountable for that, for what we're suffering today, for derailing and having as a trophy for derailing in his office in Washington, D.C., the misleading poster that he took around with Bob Dole titled Bill Clinton's Big Government Liberal Health Care Plan, and proudly displays it as 15-plus million Americans lost their health care. No. The audacity that President Obama displayed to take on special interest and others and the establishment, that's the kind of audacity we need in the next senator of Pennsylvania.
Well, back at you, Congressman Arlen Specter, I saw the other day, says that you are the most absent of all the members of Congress of the Pennsylvania delegation. You have missed more votes than anybody from the Pennsylvania delegation. So he says you're not doing your job.
It takes a lot of work to unseat a four-term senator, but it has to be done because his vote is the one that has to be missing. I think if his vote is not the one that's missing, the damage that it has done will be even more grave in the future, because he's a flight risk after this 2010 election. And, Bill, you also know that even a conservative blog on Fox came out and said, my goodness gracious, the vast majority of those votes were on that one day where the Republicans made us re-vote 3 times on the same 12 amendments. So let's not make this about me. Let's make this about the Pennsylvanians who have suffered from the vote that was present representing Pennsylvania so many years, Bill.
And let me ask you finally, Congressman, we'll let you go. Is the last time we talked, we were in the car, I remember, and you were on your way to some county, I forget. We visited all these counties, and you said, basically this was your listening tour. You wanted to talk to some people and talk to Democratic leaders before you made up your mind definitely about running. So have you made that definite decision?
Yes, expect me out there relatively soon, because I'm yearning to get out there. Why? Bill, you know my background. 31 years in the U.S. military, serving this country, and then this country served me when my daughter had a brain tumor with TRICARE. I got in this to pay back and thank the citizens of America. But now, after that tour, and listening to where great citizens and how they're struggling now There is no way I could not do this. We need someone who's in it for Pennsylvanians, not, as Arlen said, to protect a legacy. And yes, expect it relatively soon, Bill.
All right. Go get him. Go
Thank
get him.
you.
All right. Congressman Joe Sestak, always good to have you on the show.